Hello, and welcome to The Internal Executive, where we explore concepts and methods to find greater peace and more control in your life. I won't tell you what to think. I won't tell you how to feel. Rather, the information shared is simply for your consideration. Like any executive, I want you to decide what to do with it. But that's what I want. You get to decide what you want. So let's get to it. Today's topic is the third part in a series of Who Do You Think You Are? And this is the architect versus the victim in a relationship. So in relationships, who you think you are isn't just an abstract idea. It's how you actually show up in a relationship. And when someone else is trying to project their baggage onto you, we don't find ourselves in isolation. We discover our true character when we interact with others. And that is especially true with self-serving people who try to define us and will often project their most negative traits onto us. The whole concept of narcissist and empath and toxic relationships has been all over the internet and dissected in many different ways for quite a few years now. But how you show up is the difference between being an animal or an architect. If you're operating out of your basic survival instincts, that is being reflexive, you'll naturally match the energy of a narcissist. In Burns' terms, your hurt child will react to their hurt child, or potentially the nurturing parent might come out, but usually it's an energy match of wounding to wounding. The most common reaction is defense, explanation, or counter projection. But it really is a loop where the other person is holding the leash, getting one reaction after another from you. This is where the power of autonomy comes into play. As doctors Edward Deci and Richard Ryan demonstrate in self-determination theory, this is a theory that they developed using data in the world, using observable data about human nature. They show that your most resilient asset, or the asset that will make you most resilient, is your autonomy, your agency. This is the realization that you have the power to control your own internal life, regardless of what someone else says or does. This is where we give up the make me feel something. When you stop reacting to someone else's brokenness, you move from the Freudian loop of past pain into a role of true agency. So, I said the architect and the victim. In transactional analysis, as pioneered by Dr. Byrne, or Bernie, I've heard it both ways, and I've talked about him at length in other podcasts, we often see people get stuck in the drama triangle, switching between the victim, the persecutor, or the rescuer. But now we can upgrade that software. There was an alternative model proposed by David Emerald called the empowerment dynamic, or the TED model, which I'll explain in a minute. And it stops us from being reflexive or a victim or an animal, in Freud's description, to an architect or creator. Instead of being a victim who feels done to, you become the creator. The creator chooses the path, creates the path, right? You stop asking why this is happening to me and start asking, what do I want to create from this situation? When a narcissist projects their garbage onto you, you don't have to match their energy or become their persecutor, which can be very tempting at times. Rather, Emerald suggests you reframe them as a challenger, a growth opportunity, if you will, a difficult hurdle that actually helps you clarify your own values and strengthen your resolve. So the challenger is, they challenge you to growth. Maybe you'll get stronger, maybe you'll develop a better callus, maybe you'll learn to ask better questions, but they're not necessarily your enemy. And instead of a rescuer trying to fix a narcissist who isn't listening, right, the pattern of the, quote, empath, unquote, you can activate the coach for yourself, guiding your own actions with wisdom rather than drama. So let me go over the TED model and the drama triangle, just in case you're not familiar with it. The drama triangle is called the psychodrama that many people engage in, and it is, it's what, at least in Western literature, stories are written this way. There's a victim to be rescued, and there's a villain that is hurting the victim. So villain hurts victim, victim suffers, rescuer comes in and saves. Now, that can be a very real thing. You know, a crime is in play and somebody with less power is being hurt by someone with more power. When it becomes pathological is when we deny our power to remove ourselves or to respond differently. But that is the classic mindset of the narcissist who's emotionally stuck in that childlike mentality of somebody has to rescue the victim from the evil persecutor. Now, the TED model is the grown-up version of the psychodrama model, the drama triangle. And that is the challenger. Instead of a persecutor, you have a challenger. And instead of a victim, you have a creator. And instead of a rescuer, you have a coach. So the creator is going to access all of their resources, or as many of their resources they need, to respond to the challenger in a way that minimizes harm to themselves and maximizes growth and opportunity. The coach doesn't do it for you. He doesn't make you do anything. He or she suggests to you a path forward or inspires you to move forward. Come on, you can do it, be your cheerleader type of coach. Coaches cheer you on, but they also sort of bitch slap you. Excuse the profanity. But that's the difference in the two models. And I think it's important to understand that. Now, the Frankl alternative, and I was always drawn to him. I think that there were just certain things about Freud's theory that there were multiple things that I just always took issue with when I was learning the different psychological theories. But the Frankl alternative, turns out that his approach lined up, Bernie came after Frankl. But it is the ultimate healthy adult move. It's exactly what Frankl demonstrated in his seminal work, Man's Search for Meaning. Lots of information on that online and in the libraries. Many dissertations have been written on that book. He proved that even in the most toxic environments, you can use self-detachment, a concept worth looking up, to keep your peace. You don't have to win their game. You just have to realize you're playing a different one. They have their game and you have your game. And someone else said to me, I'm not a character in their cartoon. I thought that was that was another good way to think of it. So when you look at these different doctors, all considered eminent doctors in their field, but they don't agree with each other necessarily, you get the opportunity to ask yourself, which one is going to make me more of what I want to be? Well, what do I want to be? Do I want to be resilient, or do I want to be stuck in the past, get justification for my present dysfunction by blaming my past? Because that is really what Freud does, right? That is Freud's approach. So the data, at least to me, suggests that real strength comes from this Frankl-style detachment. Dr. Robert Anthony famously pointed out, well, I don't know how famous it is, but I'm familiar with it. What you focus on grows. If you focus on the narcissist and their projection, that chaos is what will grow in your life. And you're focusing on your pain. But unlike other species, we have the ability to shift our focus. When you stop trying to win a low-level game and start focusing on the person you're becoming, you create an invisible wall between you and the narcissist that they cannot penetrate. You're no longer reacting to them. You're no longer feeding the pain and the dynamic. You're the architect of your own peace. Move towards meaning. This is difficult for me to close on because there's so many places you can go with this, but truly, being in a relationship with a narcissist is very painful unless you disregard their input. Now, physical danger is something else, of course. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just these self-serving psychological mind games they use to get you to feel the pain they don't want to feel or that they enjoy inflicting on others. There's even disagreement about that. So hopefully this information gives you some interesting concepts to mull over. And I always look forward to the feedback and questions, or if you want me to go somewhere else with this, if you liked what you heard or you think someone else would benefit from and appreciate the information, please like, share, and subscribe. It helps the algorithm. Yeah, I appreciate you stopping by. And I will catch you next time.